We just gave birth to some helpful new content we think you'll like. This video is an interview with Anna and Sam, a real couple that went through pregnancy and gave birth during the COVID-19 pandemic. They share their experience and recommendations with me, John with Fathercraft, and my co-founder Paul, also with Fathercraft. Anna and Sam's baby was born in June of 2020, and we talked to them in August of 2020. Enjoy the conversation. Also, enjoy Oliver's conversation with his school kids on his Zoom meeting. I hope you enjoy that as well.
So we gave birth in June, early June. So we were a week early. I had just finished work the Friday before, and I was like, oh, I have a week to read all the books and figure out what do I need to do the first couple weeks. That didn't happen quite as planned, and she came early, and I was like, I didn't even really know I was in labor. So thankfully I had a doctor's appointment anyways that morning. And we decided, hey, let's go in to see if I'm in labor or not. And if so, we'll just go to the hospital. If not, I guess, I don't know, I'll just be uncomfortable for a while. So.
And we showed up, and the doctor was like, you're 3 centimeters dilated, go to the hospital.
So in our county, Montgomery County, it was one of the highest case rates or highest confirmed cases in the state. So Montgomery County and Prince George's. So we were always very concerned because when COVID started, Montgomery County is actually where some of the initial cases showed up. So whenever I went for my OBGYN appointments, because those were still in person, because they needed to check my blood pressure, check the urine, draw blood, so those always were in person, I would always ask my OBGYN, what's the situation like at the hospital? Because the only news you get, or the only news you got then, was what was happening in New York City, kind of more the extreme cases. So you always are a little more paranoid about what's the situation at my hospital? Are they running short on supplies? Are they overwhelmed with cases? Is it chaos over there? So I would, every single prenatal visit I had, I would ask the OBGYNs what was going on. So it was somewhat convenient because I got to work from home more. It started around between my second and third trimester, and I was struggling buying clothes for work, or just I was growing so much, so it was helpful to be at home because I pretty much wore his clothes, and his shirts, and his shorts and pants, because that's all I could fit into. So that was fairly convenient. And the working culture norm of working and doing meetings on Zoom, it's perfectly acceptable to be in t-shirts and no one's wearing business casual on a Zoom meeting. So it was a little bit convenient for that, and also just to be in the comfort of my own home, because pregnant women have to pee a lot, and just not having to drive around or move around a lot. It was actually kind of nice to be home, and also to have him home. We started preparing back in January and February, so I had signed us up for the hospital classes on preparing for birth, hospital tours, and baby care. So a lot of the other couples there were much further along than us. Mm-hmm. So we had the benefit of, we had half to 3/4 of the classes in person before everything shut down. Actually, one of our classes, we went to the hospital and they said, sorry, everything is canceled until further notice.
It was mid-March.
Yeah,
It was
mid-March.
supposed to be our last in-person class, and they moved it online, which was not as useful.
Yeah, because they weren't prepared for it, because they no one knew how to switch into educating online, or how to do any curriculum online, because everyone was used to doing things in person. So, it was a little unfortunate because that was partially the baby care basics course. And so I'm pretty sure we might have missed some important things about swaddling and some other things that it would be nice to have those dummy dolls and an actual person showing you physically how to do it versus them trying to teach you on camera to, 30 other couples.
But I guess we were lucky that Anna was proactive. So doing it, one benefit to doing it that early was that we actually got to do it in person.
Yeah, some of it in person.
Some of it in person. Yeah.
But it did make, I know that I was very anxious because, we planned a baby shower, an in-person baby shower for April. And that's, obviously you get the joy of, seeing all your friends and family, but that's when you get your stuff. That's when you get all the things that you need to have the baby. And so I was like, well, we were, waiting because we didn't know, because the news kept saying, okay, just another 2 weeks. So, we postponed it saying we'd give a later date based on more information, and eventually we just canceled it once everyone figured out, hey, this isn't going away. So we canceled it, and that was sad. But we figured out how to do a virtual baby shower. There wasn't a lot of information out there yet about how to do it. So we figured out a cool way to do a Zoom baby shower where we did a little bit of like a Q&A session where we had our family involved. We had our parents tell stories about when we were kids. We had our siblings interview us, and we had like a little survey form where people could submit questions and like do a guessing game. So we kind of made our way around it, and it kind of helped because it felt less guilty asking people for stuff, knowing that we kind of had a virtual baby shower party. Otherwise, I was thinking, well, I've got to just go to Buy Buy Baby or Target or Amazon, and I've got to like buy it now. But I also felt guilty at the time because at the beginning of COVID, everyone was stressing that, we should only be buying things online that are essential. Because we have to, protect the workers. We need to do things sparingly. So, I felt very guilty, like getting anything online or just having anything shipped. But as time progressed, this became the norm where everyone's shipping things. It's not just, your essentials. It's how we live now.
For me, like at the end of the baby shower, it was like, I don't know, a few months into all of the coronavirus stuff, and that was the first time where I felt sad not seeing family and friends in person. That being able to share the pregnancy with family and friends in person, that it was emotional, but at the same time, we were happy that we had like the chance to do something.
You have to mute people. There's no way you can let 50, 100 people like come and chime in. Like we were very organized. Like I'm a very organized person, and like I made an agenda, and we did a dry run with our families to make sure like everything was timed and what activities we were going to do. And that's exactly why we had a survey for people to submit things, because we wanted them to participate. But I'm not going to open the floor up to 50 people to talk at random. So, we had a chat moderator, and the survey is where people could submit things like, what do you suggest for, our labor and delivery playlist? What are some tips that you have for, parenting?
So there was an electronic interactive
If
way.
we were in it at an in-person party, what would you have asked?
Yeah. The number one thing for me was like, if I get the coronavirus, I wouldn't be able to be in the delivery room with her. That was my absolute number one concern.
Yeah. So also around the time that we were pregnant, this is when the New York City hospitals, they weren't even allowing partners in the delivery room.
Yeah.
So that was even quite questionable for us. And, again, I was always asking my OBGYN, like, what's the situation? Like, are partners allowed? Is anyone else allowed? And, the situation was always evolving. So I was worried that I would be in labor and delivery by myself.
Even if I didn't have coronavirus, just for precautions, that was... Yeah,
so giving birth alone worrisome. And then the hospital being crazy and not having enough like supplies like sanitizer or, masks or any other protective gear or just like basic equipment because all of it's being used for other cases. So all of that was a concern.
Fortunately, that was not the case. Yeah, but yes, all like going through those scenarios in your head and then like thinking, what do you do? I don't know. We never really had a plan for what we would have done if I wasn't allowed in there.
And what was a little bit surprising was the day that I came in for delivery, they changed their policy so that all mothers that are delivering had to take a COVID test. If you refused the COVID test, you had to go to a special COVID delivery wing. And in that wing, all of the staff would have to wear a lot more gear.
Basically go full...
full protective gear. Yeah. And what that would mean is it would take them a lot longer to get into the room to help you. Which we realized in the actual like birthing part, like you want the doctor there ASAP. You don't want him fumbling around, putting on gloves, washing his hands, putting on like masks. Like
please,
like, get into the room, get the baby out now. I took it because I imagined, I was like, I don't want other people to have to like get all in this gear. Like, I don't want to have to be in all this gear, and I don't want to be in the wing with other people that either refuse or have COVID. So I sucked it up and I took the test.
Mm-hmm.
So parking is easy because there's at the time, there's no elective cases. There's no other, elective surgeries going on. No one's going in for visits. So it's only the folks that are there for emergencies and the other people giving birth. So
it actually was surprisingly empty. I had to be in a mask the whole time. I assume they tested her because, being in a mask in labor and delivery would just be impossible or highly uncomfortable.
Yeah, I asked because I could, at that time, like just even having the mask on, because just walking around, it was hard to breathe. And I was like, there's no way I'm giving birth, like wearing a mask, or just in general, going through contractions wearing a mask. Like, it's not happening.
And then all the staff comes in wearing a mask. And then wherever you go, you're not supposed to, linger. Or the cafeteria, for example, was only, you could only grab your food and then leave. You couldn't like sit down and eat. So that time period for me was also a little bit stressful, like grabbing food and then finding somewhere to eat, because I was the only one that was allowed in there with her. So no family was allowed to come and visit, so you couldn't take turns being in the room together. Yeah. So I had to go out, run out, find a time when the nurse said, okay, chances are she's not going to get, the kid's not coming out, in the next, 30 minutes to an hour. You can go, grab some food and get some energy because later you're not going to want to leave. So. So the cafeteria and other parts of the hospital were just closed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they did allow at least, one person or your partner. Usually our hospital allowed 2. So people had the choice of, you could have your partner and, a doula, or your partner and someone else in your family. So when we were taking the classes, we were thinking, oh, okay, it's nice to have a second person there to help out. But with COVID, we didn't have to make that choice. So again, I don't want to say it was a positive, but it helped because it took away that stress of deciding, do we want a family member? Do we want a doula? How does that work? So, it was kind of good, but I don't know. For other people, I'm sure they probably would have wanted, a second person or secondary support, or have to have a doula present.
So wearing a mask, I had to wear a mask. They highly discouraged going in and out of the hospital. So a plug for Father's Ed, having the checklist of things you should bring. We had our bags and everything ready to go, and so that helped in just being prepped. So I did leave at one point to run out to the car, grab some things. This was after the baby was born, to grab some more supplies. One thing I will say to add maybe to the checklist is a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Because I was wearing a woman's button down because it was cold in the hospital. And then just the restricting where you can go in the hospital and sort of confining yourself to only the room that you're in.
Yeah. Other than masks,
there's
nothing different about the procedures. Nothing different about, what they do with the baby in terms of, yes, they do have to take her, to do some of the tests or to give some of the shots. So they might take her to the nursery for a bit.
Yeah, I suppose in terms of the prep, it was, as Anna said, mostly her OB, just, interacting with her and making sure that we knew what was going on at the hospital leading up to it. Because once you're there, they just sort of, guide you through the whole process. So, yeah.
And I didn't really know the difference because, I didn't have to wear a mask while I was in there. And to me, it was more overwhelming to deal with the baby than it was to deal with anything in the outside world. I didn't, I was reading the news every day before that. And when the baby came, wasn't reading the news every day or, reading anything, not knowing what was going on in the outside world. So COVID kind of was like not in my mind. It was, the baby was kind of, at the forefront of it.
I mean, for me, less scary than anticipated. The labor and delivery wing was sort of removed from where they were treating coronavirus patients. Well, like Hannah said, just sort of being prepared for whatever the hospital's procedures or policies are, just knowing what they are ahead of time. If you are only allowed one partner or no partners at all, just sort of being mentally prepared for, as the dad, just like not leaving the labor and delivery room. So that means, taking whatever supplies you need just to be there for, potentially, 24
So asking your
hours or more.
ask your OBGYN like what the situation is and like how it's evolving. And if you do have a contact at the hospital. So during our tour, one of the labor and delivery coordinators, they gave us a phone number so you could always call them to see what was going on. But, I had concerns that, once we came into the hospital, would they not let him out to go get our bags, for example? So it's like little things like that where it's like you don't know because there's no usual communication. Usually the hospital gives you, a bunch of packets and a bunch of things about like what to expect, what to prepare, how things work. But there wasn't that available and they were still, coming up with how does this work exactly. So everything was, by word of mouth, whatever you ask the hospital and whatever has changed or evolved at the time. So for me, it was a lot of asking my OBGYN, like, what's new? Or like, here's what I think might be happening or what I'm concerned about. Like, is this okay? And he or she actually, they would call the hospital and ask like, hey, like, is it okay if they go back to their car to get their bags once they're, they've checked in to the hospital? Having as many things as you can to be prepared, so that way you're not going in and out of the hospital, you're not going in and out to your car. Being prepared with, the things that you need while you're there. Oh, and to get your Target and Bye Bye Baby like apps for curbside pickup, because that was also very helpful for things that we didn't have. Things that we realized we need to buy this and pick it up on our way home for our first night. That was really helpful.
Well, I'm work from home. It's tough at times, just because, so Anna's still on maternity leave, and for me, being at home and hearing the baby crying and just like not being able to or trying not to go into the next room and help, that's difficult.
We've had family over because we can't do it alone. I know that some people say like, we've got to protect everyone. Yes, we're being cautious. Yes, we're asking our family members to be cautious, but like it's nice to have help. It's nice to have like, so my mom is here. My brother and sister-in-law have been here. Like his parents have been here. My family lives within driving distance, so it's helpful. And they'd been practicing, physical distancing and being safe. So we felt comfortable, being around each other. His parents flew in, but they were trying to be very, very cautious in terms of what their exposure was like on the airplane and coming in to be safe.
Yeah, without that help, it would be impossible. I know people are doing it, but I just don't know how people are getting by without help, if they are. We also have really great neighbors and friends. They would drop things off on our porch, so like casseroles and like bottles and like a bunch more books on sleep and on breastfeeding and some other things. Other baby clothes, like other gifts and things like that. So, it's nice that people still are involved in some way, if not just like you don't see them in person, but you kind of hear them. And he's been out with actually our neighbors. So the men went out and did like the dads did a little like happy hour, social distancing happy hour on the lawns. That was I think a couple weeks into being home with the baby. So
Yeah, and I joined all, so like the mom support groups are all online. So, and it's good to still have them. It's, but, you know, it'd be nice to go in person to see people because it's a little isolating. Because once I stopped working, or because I'm on maternity leave now, like I don't talk with other people other than him. Like I didn't feel lonely at all while I was pregnant because, you know, I was always in meetings, always talking to people. But afterwards, being on maternity leave, my only exposure is him, the baby, and when my family visits. So
yeah, that the sort of the broader social network of, you know, friends, even extended family, is just sort of diminished, and so that's tough. Just not being able to, you know, have the social experience of like showing our baby to the rest of the neighbors in the community and even the extended family in the area. So the support, it makes these sort of the like finding the support that you need in this time, especially like the first, you know, few weeks, has been difficult.
What we learned at the hospital, like, you need to learn to swaddle.
Yeah, the swaddling and well, I mean, our kid loves being in a swaddle.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
So like general baby, like regardless of COVID, it was like learn how to swaddle. Like even if without the blanket, get yourself like a swaddle product and like bring it with you to the hospital. Yeah. Bring that and a noise machine with you to the hospital.
Yeah, and the 5 S's, the Harvey Karp's 5 S's, those have been truly essential. But going into coronavirus ahead of time, just the what we were just talking about, just thinking about ways to find support, you know, electronically or virtually in or some sort of format, you know, that's not in person, because that will be truly helpful with, I mean, just asking questions on you know, people that are parents or people that are like new parents with you, just to be able to talk about like, oh, what's working for you, what's not working for you, you know, finding those resources and how to use them, I think is really important.
Yeah, to have something to look forward to like once a week, like whether it's a Zoom call or something else. It's a good break in the day, good relief. And the other thing, I'm sorry, you only said one, but here's another thing to consider is like having a backup plan for if one of you gets sick or one of you gets COVID or both of you get COVID.
Yeah.
What's your plan? Because there's not a lot of information out there or like what you're going to do. So I unfortunately came down with a fever 2 weeks ago. And, you know, usually in that situation, you think, oh, yes, go get more help because, you know, you're sick. You can't take care of the baby as well as you can. Yes, it's, you know, you get help in a normal situation. But with COVID, you have to think, no, we have to keep away from people more so than ever. And this is harder more than ever because he was back at work. I was going to try to take care of the baby, but I could barely take care of myself.
Yeah.
So. And
it was I don't know, 2 or 3 days. So we tested, both of us got tested for
COVID.
COVID.
And we were negative.
We were negative.
Thankfully.
But that like, I don't know, 3-4 day period where it's just like, okay, we need to go on lockdown as opposed to
like, hey, go get help because you're sick. So.
Yeah. So. Especially because Anna's mom is you know, the person that is here
in an older population range, so you want to be, you know, safer about that. So yeah, like if there's any plan you can have in place, just so that way you're not so anxious. If it ever does happen to you, you have something, some type of plan.
Thanks to Anna and Sam for talking to us about their experience, because we really hope it helps other parents in the same situation. Now, be sure to subscribe for more parenting videos, including our conversation with another couple, Scott and Kristin, and also interviews with pediatrician Dr. Jacquelinne Winkelmann. Talk to you later.